this TikTok liberal is basically saying that adoption is somehow racist.
So the myth that we usually hear about adoption is that it's like a nice family adopting a child in need to give them a better life. As someone who was interested in adoption, I actually looked into stories from adoptees themselves, and what I learned horrified me. First of all, the history of the adoption system where I live in the United States is extremely colonial. It was built on a history of taking children of color from their families to give to white parents who could give them a, quote, better life, which is very racist, obviously. Our adoption system today still operates off that same implicit bias and racism. Black children, for example, are nearly twice as likely to end up in foster care based on their percentage of the population of the U.S. in total. Transracial adoptions are also disproportionately represented in these statistics, with 90% of transracial adoptions being white parents adopting children of color, centering this idea of white saviorship. We also redirect funds through the foster care system in a really fucked up weird way. Many families who lose their children to CPS just need more resources to be able to adequately care for their families. But instead, we take their children and we give those resources to foster parents instead of the kids' actual parents to help them.
So the thing I have to ask here is, I mean, what is your solution to it? Any of this? I mean, that's something that you never see them do. They never want to give you a solution to the problem. They just want to talk about it being a problem. No situation is perfect. Nobody said adoption is perfect. I mean, I don't know where that person is. So when you don't present a solution, because obviously they don't have one, then all I'm left with is to basically look at what you said and argue against that and try to figure out what it is that you're talking about. So one of the biggest things that they brought up was that saying that black children are twice as likely to end up in foster care. Now, of course, they're using that and saying, okay, well, this is true, so must be racist, right? But they don't ask why that's the case, okay? So that's the issue that you're seeing here. They never want to look at the actual reasoning as to why. I mean, they literally think that somehow, like, who's snatching these black kids out of houses and putting them in foster care? That's not what's taking place. What's happening is there's a very high single-parent household rate in the black community. And a lot of them are growing up in poverty as a result of that, okay? There's a reason. There's always a reason. It's a community issue. It always has been that issue. So blaming the system on something that is black people's problem is ridiculous, as you have seen with many of these liberals that pretend to be so woke. The thing is that she also says black kids are placed with white families most of the time. Okay? Maybe it's because of the fact that there aren't a lot of black people adopting black kids. I mean, black people do make up 13% of the population. When you're talking about the fact that their poverty rates are really high, single-parent household rates very high, it would make sense that most of the people that are actually able to adopt them are probably most likely going to be people that are not 13% of the population, like white parents. Which, first of all, does it matter? I mean, who cares about this? Who is looking at this worried and being concerned about the race and everything? And I love how she just assumes as if, oh, some of them back in the day, they took these black kids to these white families because they thought they were going to have a better life, which is so racist. No, what's racist is assuming that for some reason that black people just need to stick with their own thing and never be able to give their child an opportunity to be successful. That's racist to me. Spoken like a true white liberal, as usual. Some of these people are the most racist people you'll ever meet, I'm telling you. But around 70% of black kids grow up in a single-parent household. That's something that is a fact. It's just a statistical fact. You can't ignore that. That needs to be taken into consideration when we're looking at these things. And the fact is that there's 3 easy steps that anybody can follow, unless you've already passed these, but 3 easy steps that most people can follow to not end up in poverty. First of all, don't have kids out of wedlock, graduate high school, and don't have kids before the age of 20. If you can do those 3 things, guaranteed, pretty good chance you're not going to end up in poverty. There's like 8% chance you might end up in poverty, but that's extremely low. Versus if you do those 3 things, by the way, then there's an 80% chance that you will end up in poverty. So we have to look at those things, because when you look at those 3 things, you're going to find that those 3 things most black people are lacking, and that most white people are they have. So we have to look at that. Those statistics matter. You can't just ignore it and just chalk it up as racist because that's the easiest thing to do. The other thing too is that the rate is beginning to fall for all races as well. When we're looking at those 3 things and the single parent household rate, that actually is going up. Like, there's more people in general, especially when we look over the last 70 years. Of course, the black community is the worst right now, but it's starting to get worse even amongst white families as well. So we have to take that into consideration as well over the time period. But once again, to bring race into this with absolutely no accountability, is the typical Democrat lie. They always try to do this every single time, to say that it's somebody else's fault, but not their own. It's clearly the adoption system to blame, not the fact that black people are overwhelmingly too poor and putting them in these systems to begin with. That's the big problem that you see with these people. And honestly, I don't know who in the world in their right mind would see that lady walk into an office somewhere and legitimately allow her to have an adoption child. No matter how desperate they are, it's always something you can see in these people's eyes. They're just crazy. They're out of their mind. They're trying so hard to be woke that they wind up being the thing they claim the system is, which is racist. This lady is racist because she is the one that is trying to say that for some reason that there's no way for black people to have a better life through adoption. If that's something that the child needs, that we must take that away while offering absolutely no solutions. So just let them live in poverty with no opportunity to succeed. And yeah, that's your typical white liberal right there. You just watched a clip from The William Hall Show. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.